It is 8 o'clock. This is WJLE Smithville, and we have a very special guest in the studio with us today. It is our county mayor, Matt Adcock. And he is going to be sharing some information with us today about the situation regarding the DeKalb County Jail, the current status of the facility, and the needs of the county in regard to the jail and possibly a school. So, Matt, good morning. Good to have you with us today.
Good morning, Dwayne, and good morning to all the listeners out there.
Let's talk about the jail and what are some of the concerns of the DeKalb County Jail as they stand today.
Yeah, so this all started when TCI, which is the Tennessee Correctional Institute, came to DeKalb County and inspected our county jail, and they found multiple issues of concern. Talked about there wasn't enough lighting for the inmates. The space was very limited. Didn't have enough space for the amount of inmates we had. There was also some mold and mildew that was found during this inspection, and we had been told that, if we got on that plan of action, Deputy Director Bob Bass from TCI kind of come and spoke with the commission and spoke with the sheriff and myself and kind of went over what we could do to make corrections to make sure our jail stayed certified. He did say that if we got put on a plan of action, it would help us prolong our certification to where we can house inmates. So during that discussion, I was kind of asking Bob Bass a little bit what a plan of action actually is. What does it entail? And he pretty much told me that there's multiple counties across Tennessee that's already on a plan of action, and told me a little bit about what theirs was. So I developed my own master plan. That was a plan of action, and let Mr. Bob Bass see it, and he said it was very well written, and we kind of put that together for the commission to look at and approve. Our plan of action, I believe, reached out to 3 to 4 years from now before actually developing a facility. And it entailed looking for property and looking for funding sources and just really preliminary work that would put us in the right step to make a move in the future. This plan of action isn't something that would have built a facility this year or anytime soon at all, but rather do the preliminary steps and projecting yourself forward in progress. So after that plan of action was set in place, that was right after February, here recently, TCI come back to DeKalb County and re-examined the jail, did another inspection, and the jail was cut from 102 beds, certified beds, to 52 certified beds by TCI. And that's a report that Sheriff Ray presented to us in our jail committee meeting. So that cut our population literally in half of the amount of certified beds we have available. So we've made a lot of efforts in trying to get prisoners in other counties. I believe the population was around a little over 80, maybe 86, that we had at the time, that they were cut to 52. So we were trying to find the sheriff was trying to find other counties for them to go to. And the ones that we couldn't find to go to other counties, they were asked that the judge put them on ankle monitors and have them monitored at home for nonviolent criminals. So we had to let a lot of people go, and nobody wants to do that. I mean, that's a terrible thing to have to let go inmates because you don't have room or the building is not up to code or up to the regulations or standard that TCI has. So after looking at the costs, we saw that it was going to be around $55 a day per inmate. I know different jails have different prices. I know some are not that high, but so each county that you go to, the jail, they just have their own price on what they charge you per day to hold an inmate at their facility. So we made an unofficial projected number of, we think it could be close to $500,000 a year spent on housing inmates in other counties. The jail is not certified, is not being certified, opens the door to serious liability. So by us not being certified, if for some reason we lost that certificate, that opens up the door for lawsuits and other liabilities that could come back on the county and be a lot more expensive than what we're spending now. So we want to be really careful about not using anything that's uncertified. We want to keep everything certified as much as we can. We've seen other counties in Tennessee that have not been certified and gotten in a little bit of trouble. So we don't want to go down that path. We have multiple sources have told us verbally that in the case that DeKalb County does not build a new facility that passes inspection, the federal government can come in and force DeKalb County to build a facility to their standard and make DeKalb County front the bill. So this isn't something that I've seen on paper, but it's come from some pretty reliable sources, just from networking with other people that are been involved in similar situations. They're saying that, you know, if we just didn't do anything today and our beds get decertified, we put more prisoners in there, if someone got hurt or if somebody brought a lawsuit on us that went to the federal government, they can build a jail, and it may be an $80 million jail, and then we have to front the bill for it. So they pretty much told me it'd be best if DeKalb County built one of their own, because then we have the option of keeping it as small as we need it, and not building extra housing or extra other works that go into the building. And I do know that federal jails have even stricter regulations on how they are built. So it'll just probably be more and more money as the longer we hold out. We are currently on a plan of action that was approved by TCI. When we started prepping the building plans for this, and you know how many acres we would need and all that, TCI come and kind of looked at what we were planning to do, and he said that you're on the right track. Out of all the counties that he looked at, we were one of the had one of the best plans of action moving forward to prep a new facility that goes with looking at land, financial plans, and the whole nine works. And we're going to get into that a little bit in just a minute. So.
On the options, Matt, for either building a new jail or criminal justice center, there's pros and cons for both, right?
That's true. There's pros and cons to both. So the current jail, we can't build up because of the design of the building. So we can't make a second or third floor. Even if we could, they're saying if you build a jail that with cells that stack on top of each other, that you have to have the same amount of staff on each floor as you go up. So if you have 10 members of staff on the first floor, you have to have another 10 and another 10. So you 3-story building, you have 30 members of staff. So the jail cannot be built outward because of limited space. Behind the jail, it slopes down into a flooding area. So I've talked to some people in person that had building experience, and even TCI director Bob Bass himself. We walked around the jail, and he's like, you can't do anything on this piece of property. You can't go up, you can't go out. You're landlocked. So we were looking at other pieces of property. We have examined a lot of lots through the county, and I know a lot of people's already heard of the Hayes property that we looked at, that was there facing West Broad Street with Anthony Avenue going up beside of it and Morgan Drive behind of it, and that was 38 acres of property. And we've talked about in that discussion, and it was only a discussion, just exploring our options. We thought about buying the whole 38 acres and building a criminal justice center. And then you got all that other acres would be used for, anytime the county has to build a library or a health department or, whatever the building may be. That'd just be a great piece of land to invest in for the county, because there's no land left in the city limits like that. That was the only perfectly squared up lot that was in the city. And the reason why we're looking in the city for a criminal justice center, it must be in the city limits. By law, that a criminal justice center that has your courts and your sheriff's office, and I guess I need to kind of describe what a criminal justice center is compared to a jail. A jail is just strictly housing inmates. That's, it might have a sheriff's building attached to it, a sheriff's office, and the facility that holds inmates, which is what we have right now. A criminal justice center is a building that has those same departments, your sheriff's office and your jail, your holding facilities, but it also has your courtrooms. It also has your clerk offices. So it's more of a whole criminal justice building. It's a courthouse with a jail attached to it. And the reason why other counties are going to that, White County and Smith County and all these other counties have went to a criminal justice center, is because they're much more safe and efficient. Your inmates go straight from their jail cell down a hallway into a courtroom. They get sentenced. They go back to jail, and they're never around the public. They're never around, walking across the street like we are doing right now. In the case of our current position, we have a jail across the road from a courthouse where we're walking our inmates from the jail to the courthouse to get sentenced to walk back to the jail again. So, and that opens up liability of people getting ran over by cars, or a prisoner freeing away, or, even somebody that, if someone done something violent toward someone else's daughter, there's always that worry of somebody's going to be out there with maybe a firearm that's going to, take this guy out on his way over to court. And it opens up a lot of liability, and that liability is on the county. It's not on the citizen or on the prisoner. It's on the county. So that's kind of the con for building a jail. And one reason we thought about not building just a jail facility was because we would kind of get in that same thing again. We'd have to, if we built a jail somewhere off of the square in the city somewhere, or even in the county, you'd be driving buses or vans with prisoners and hauling them to your courthouse. So this would open up more liability for a prisoner to escape or to get hurt during a car accident. And then we also got to look at the costs, the fuel costs of that van and bus going back and forth between that jail and that courthouse, the staff it takes to drive a vehicle and watch prisoners as you're transporting them back and forth. So you have a lot of reoccurring costs by going that route that in a number of 20 years would be a massive amount of money. And then also you have to pay for buses and or vans, and more maintenance on vehicles, because those are going to have to be maintained. So we're really trying to look at every aspect of every plan. So even if the jail or criminal justice center is built in years in the future, we still have to find a place for it to go. So, if we don't build anything from 5 to 10 years from now, we at least need to acquire a piece of property. And we have not set our hearts on any property. We've looked at the Hayes property I mentioned earlier. We've looked at the Industrial Development Board land out there off of Moog Boulevard. We've looked at some land off of South Mountain Street. That's the one right before Mr. Larry Summers, the field right there on the right. I believe it's owned by Miss Redmond. We've looked at the land that is off of Allen's Ferry. That's on the opposite side of Busy Mart there. But then you got pros and cons with every piece of property. Some of them are cut up weird, and some of them are, I feel like some may be too close to a school. Like the Allen's Ferry I just mentioned. I don't know if putting inmates that close to a school with our middle school and high school over there, I don't know if that's a very good idea.
You may have addressed this, Matt. I'm sorry to interrupt, but as you know, last month you recommended to the county commission that a commercial appraisal be done of the Hayes property. So the purpose of that was what? So that's still a consideration, right?
Yes. So thank you for reminding me of that, Dwayne. So we have done an appraisal, or have an appraisal order on the Hayes property. Just to, again, we're trying to take every avenue. We don't want to leave out any property that we haven't looked at. So there should be an appraisal done within the next week or two on the Hayes property, that 38 acres that was off of West Broad and Anthony Avenue. And I plan on bringing that appraisal to our next jail committee meeting later this month, and kind of showing the commissioners and just see if it's worth what it gets appraised for, if the commission is interested in purchasing that piece of property, or if we should just move on and look at other pieces of land. So, yeah.
Are you ready to talk about funding options, or some other areas you'd like to cover first?
Yeah, I would like to cover the benefits of building a criminal justice center. Yes,
okay.
A criminal justice center, it does provide better security for the public and the inmates and staff. It has one public entrance with metal detectors. And right now, the issue with our courthouse is we have multiple entrances. We have 2 on the second floor and 1 on the first floor. So there's, I was talking to some of the court officers there, and they say it's it's chaotic because you got people coming in and different stairwells, and there's no real good place to put your metal detector because one courtroom's on this side and one's over here. So you'd really have to have 2 metal detectors and 2 separate groups of people sitting on the side watching them. So they don't have the staff to be able to do that. So right now they've kind of temporarily blocked it off with some barriers, but there's people still like to slip through those barriers and get up and not go through the metal detector. So a criminal justice center would have one public entrance in the front of the building where security is. So you check through security just like you would at a airport or any other kind of federal building. And when you get past the lobby, then you get to choose, do I want to go to the sheriff's office, or these courtrooms, or the clerk's office, and it's all put together right there for you. The other benefit is inmates would not walk across the street to the courthouse any longer. If just a jail was built, we would have to have the buses and vans. I talked a little bit about that. The prices of vehicles right now are out the roof, and we don't ever expect that to come down for a long time. Our courthouse also has really small courtrooms, so when they have big days of court or a lot on the docket, there's always a crowding problem that's going on. So, and the lower courtroom actually has no judge chambers or rooms for attorneys to converse with their clients. So it's really outdated, the courthouse that we have right now. If we did build a criminal justice center, or even just a jail, that's still not out of question of just building a jail instead. If we build, we want enough land to build and expand in the future to prevent this problem from resurfacing in the future. The plan is to be able to build on to the jail facility as well as another courtroom in the future. So this is just not having the same mentality that DeKalb County's had for a long time, where we just, again, box ourselves in and landlock us like we are right now with our current jail. And I'm not saying we have to have 38 acres. You know, even if the Hayes property comes through, we may only buy 5 acres of it. But I guess the plan of it would just be, you don't want to lock yourself in and not be able to grow. Always have not only the land, but the plan already there. So when it happens, you can say, hey, we already got a plan B that's written out. And, you know, if we need to make more housing, we build another cell off of this jail cell. And then on the court side, if, you know, a lot of the court staff, the clerks, you know, in our jail meeting, they said that they were actually having a hard time with just 3 courtrooms. We're going to try to make these courtrooms bigger, you know, in the case that we build it. But if we ever need a 4th courtroom for some reason, I would like to already have a plan to be able to build a 4th courtroom onto the building in the future, you know. And they may need that 20 years from now, and that could save them a lot of money from having to do the same thing we're having to do, where we're looking for land and going through all these options and trying to be able to afford all this. So the idea of a school, I wanted to kind of talk about that too. The idea of building a school is not abandoned. There's a lot of talk about jails and criminal justice centers. We don't know whether we're going to build a jail. We don't know whether we're going to build a criminal justice center. We're going to have to sit down with the commission in our jail committee meeting, and we're going to have to talk about the pros and cons of both. And but we're also going to have to discuss the schools, because the schools come to us. The school board approached the DeKalb County Commission approximately 1 year ago when they come in to office with a plan put together by Upland Design for a new Smithfield Elementary School in the amount of $46 million. So the commission has not mentioned which project would be funded first between a school and a jail, but it should be noted that the county has no solid plans on building the jail or criminal justice center. The school board has already purchased property for the elementary school behind Family Medical Center beside Northside Elementary School. They have already hired an architect, Upland Design, that designed the estimated $46 million project. However, the county has no architect and no land ready for the project. The county must prepare for their project just as the school board did their own. So the county is really far behind on a jail or a criminal justice center, but the school, they've already done their due diligence. Is the same thing I've talked about us, you know, as the county commission and the mayor, trying to make up a plan for our project. They've already done it. They already have land purchased, an engineer there at their disposal to make any changes or any suggestions. So we're trying to catch up with the school board, really, is what we're doing. You know, they've already made long strides on getting their project completed. The school board has already told the county commission they were going to be building a pre-K through 2nd grade elementary school, and again, that would be behind Family Medical off of North Congress Street, there, right to the right. If you're staring at Northside, it'd be over to the right of it. The county commission and myself do not choose inmates over children. It is obvious that every person would choose to build a school over a jail, but we are forced to make hard decisions. The truth is, we want to build a better school for our children and keep criminals off the street and away from our children and families. This is why myself and the county commission are doing our due diligence of researching every avenue, so that way we all can make an educated decision that is the most beneficial for every citizen and every taxpayer. We see the need for both of these projects. The school is very needed. We've been talking about schools for probably close to 10 or I would say 10 years at least. So there is a need for schools. There's a need for jails, and unfortunately, DeKalb County has been very blessed to go a really long time without ever having to build one of these facilities. But we are the lucky ones to get to meet the challenge and come up with a solution for the problem, and that's what the citizens have elected us to do. And I feel responsible, and I'm sure the county commission also feels responsible to uphold that obligation.
I guess the obvious question is, can the county afford to do a jail and a school, or criminal justice center and a school?
Right. So that's what we'll talk a little bit about funding sources. That's been a lot of the talk.
Take your time.
And a lot of people's concerns, and they should be. And so we have many challenges to face all at once, but of course nothing is free. So we must work diligently on finding the best funding source to help us grow into progress for our needs without breaking the taxpayer. We have not identified a true funding source yet. We're still working hard on trying to find what would be best for DeKalb County. According to the debt study done by CTAS, a $50 wheel tax with the amount of DeKalb County registered vehicles would accumulate approximately $1.1 million. Now, that's not to say that we want a wheel tax. That's us doing our due diligence and checking every option. You know, if that way, if somebody comes up and says, "Hey, did you consider this?" we can say, "Hey, we considered every option." Although the study was conducted, the county commission has never made an action on the subject of a wheel tax. It was only observed as part of the funding research. In the case that it was to be implemented, the subject would most likely go to the ballot box to be voted on by the citizens of DeKalb County. So normally when a county does get a wheel tax, it's not just chosen by the county commissioner or mayor or any public official, but rather the citizens of the county. So that would be put on a ballot, just like when you go vote for any other of the public officials. You'll go out and you'll vote whether to implement a wheel tax or whether not to. I like that. I like that the public gets to make the decision and not the officials. Property tax has also been a part of the research. This fluctuates depending on the cost of the project. Again, once spoken earlier, the county has not chosen an architect to plan a design for a structure. Therefore, there is no confirmed price on the jail project. First, the county commission will have to determine whether they want a jail, a criminal justice center, or a school. The county did get a rough estimate, ballpark figure, from a construction management service that a criminal justice center with 225 to 250 beds and 3 to 4 courtrooms would be roughly $50 million. However, this has been examined as too much for our current need and too much for our fiscal ability. Research is being continued for a smaller facility that would include a 165 to 175 bed facility with 3 courtrooms. Again, the county has nothing solid but only verbal estimates. The county has submitted RFQs, which is a request for qualifications, for construction management services and architect services that can help guide the county commission to making a better educated decision and identifying costs more accurately. So we don't have an architect, we don't have an engineer. We've literally had people come and give us a rough ballpark estimate, just saying, well, I've built so many jails and I would just assume that it would be about this price. And we're not going to know a true number until we sit down with the architect and engineer at a table and we really break down and tell them what we want, and they can make something more solid. Again, we're still in the very preliminary stages, but we're trying to communicate to the public. And, that's one reason I come today is, to try to help calm you down a little bit and just show you that, we haven't acted on anything. We're only doing our due diligence of checking every option, using every avenue, because we want we want to get us in the right financial plan to where it's not going to be a large tax burden on our taxpayers and our citizens, because you're who matters the most. So the total project cost has not been set in stone, not even the school, because the estimate we got for the $46 million school was about 1 year ago now. So in a year, project costs can go up and they can go down. So we're really wondering what that price would be now, a year later. Building costs are always fluctuating, and we really need to get exact numbers before we go into our finance plan and start breaking down how we're going to be able to pay for all this. We cannot identify the number of the adequate amount of revenue because we do not yet have the total cost of the project. So we can't, even if we say we're not going to use a wheel tax money, we're only going to use property tax. Well, if we do that, we're not going to know how much to really budget to receive, because we don't really know how much we're going to spend at this point. And those are very important things to know when you're going through your financial plan, choosing what you want to build and how you're going to afford to build it. And I want to bring emphasis on the idea that no project takes precedence over the other. So right now, the school doesn't take precedence over the jail, and the jail doesn't take precedence over the school. Obviously, we'd rather build a school, for our children. I have a 12-week-old son at home right now, and I'd much rather him see to go to a new school. And as far as the prisoners go, that's something that our hands are tied on because they told us we have to do it. So our final thoughts going out, I just want to rest assured that the County Commission and myself are striving to do as much research as possible for these situations that have been presented to our attention. And a school would be the obvious choice over a facility for inmates naturally, but the state and federal government could overrule the county, putting us in even a harder position. No project has been designated a primary project to be constructed first. No land has been chosen for the jail or criminal justice center. No revenue source has been identified as the financial plan for any project. The County Commission is in the very preliminary stages of all these projects, and nothing is set in stone. The DeKalb County government has been placed in a hard situation, but thankfully, we have a strong group of leaders at the table, and I don't think God did that by accident. I am confident that this County Commission will make a more than suitable decision that will impact this community in a positive way for generations to come. DeKalb County is growing, and I believe even though this commission was behind the 8 ball as soon as they were elected, I believe they will be the ones not afraid to make a hard decision, produce strong leadership, and finally fix our crumbling state of stability. The group we're working with now have showed strong leadership. This county commission, which is our funding body of the county, we just received our budget certificate from the Tennessee Comptroller's Office. This is one of the first groups that anybody can remember of passing our fiscal budget before the end of the other. Before the new fiscal year started, we already had our budget submitted, turned in, and we got praised for it, and we actually got a certificate from the state. So I see strong leadership, and I think this group is different. I think they're the ones that know that we're behind, that DeKalb County has been stuck in the past, and they're looking to do great things. They're looking to make things right. So I'm very blessed to have them as my commission, and thankfully I get to work with them time after time and we all have the same goal, which is most important, that everybody has the same worldview, and we all want good things for our county. We all want to stop the taxpayer from being, broken in taxes. But at the end of the day, we know we have to get a job done at the same time. So finding an equal balance there is a difficult thing for a person to do, but it's a thing that we can do. It's something that with strong encouragement and integrity, we can do it. So our next meeting will be sometime this month.
October 26th, that's the jail committee meeting.
Okay.
And the jail committee is made up mostly of the county commission, right? And you?
Yes. So that jail committee meeting will be made up of all 14 members of our county commission and myself. I plan on bringing an engineer and an architect with me, and then also all the plots of land that we've looked at and all the funding sources that we've looked at. And then an estimated cost of every project, whether it's a jail, a criminal justice center, and a school. And I'm going to lay all these things out on the table, and then I'm going to let the county commission collaborate a plan based off all these options and all this research that we've brought to the table. And we'll have the CTAS studies, the all that research information, also the TCI. The CTAS jail research, as well as our funding research. And hopefully in that meeting we can get a little bit further on to the first step of maybe making a decision on what's going to be built, where it's going to be built, and how. So
the jail committee meeting will be on Thursday, October 26th at 6 p.m. in the lower courtroom of the courthouse downtown.
Yes. Yep.
So.
It'll be in the lower courtroom, and I hope we get a lot of people come, and especially the ones that are very passionate about this. I've gotten a lot of phone calls, and but I look forward to anyone that wants to come to be there, and maybe our architect and engineer can ask questions and have a little bit more solid numbers. I work off a lot of estimates and roundabout numbers, but they have a more foolproof idea of how that works and can answer questions better than me, because obviously they build these things for a living, and but
anything further you'd like to add before we wrap it up, County Mayor Adcock?
Yeah, I just would like to say thank you for having me on this morning, Dwayne, and everybody out there listening. Thank you for taking your time out of your day. And we will be doing our due diligence of making a good plan for you. If you have any questions or concerns or ideas that might be beneficial to this project, let us know. Let your county commissioners know. Let myself know. This is a community project, so we are very open to listening to others as we move forward. And I want to thank the county commission for all the hard work that they've done. I know that they've spent a lot of hours looking through material and really getting adjusted to this. And I just want to assure the public that nothing has been set in stone yet, but we're gonna strive to do the best project, what makes the most sense, and puts the less burden on the taxpayer as possible.
A conversation with our county mayor, Mr. Matt Adcock. Again, Matt, thank you for being with us today. We hope we've enlightened the people listening and watching, and we'll keep up with what's going on down the road.
Hi.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.